right. Good morning, everybody. We're flying blind. It's Monday. It literally says in the script, hello, it's Monday. We couldn't see our shapes. We don't have a monitor, so bear with us. We're really flying by the seat of our pants here on this fine morning for us, whatever time of day it is.
We don't even know if we're live
at SJU. Yeah, we're just assuming that we're live. We may be talking to cameras for absolutely no reason this morning.
We both know there's no film in this camera.
There is no film in the camera, Joe. Actually,
that's fair.
There's no film. There are SD cards, but no film. So we're going to be talking about the future of Star Trek, particularly in the realm of film, the very sad passing of Inside the Actors Studios' James Lipton, and also Leigh Whannell's deal with Blumhouse. But before we get into our topics today, allow me to introduce my panel. We have got one, Mr. Ed Greer.
Hey, I thought it was Leigh Whannell.
Leigh Whannell?
Leigh Whannell.
Leigh Whannell?
Leigh Whannell.
It's Leigh Whannell.
Yeah.
No, yeah, we did an episode of Reboot It, and we cast him as the director for our Wolverine reboot.
Oh.
And we tried to get his Leigh Whannell. Leigh Whannell.
Leigh Whannell.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying that right.
No, I'm sure you're saying it right.
Of all the name combinations you could have come up with, you came up with, just say it again one more time.
Leigh Whannell.
Nice. Well done.
And somebody who may have a better idea of how to actually pronounce that name, TBD, Joe Starr.
Emma, when you talk about Star Trek and you talk about box office, you think of one person on this team, and he was unavailable.
I know.
So I'm here.
It's true. Joe is our stand-in for Dan Murrell, who has just gotten off a plane from his trip to Atlanta this weekend. So we wish him well. Please tweet at him about all the Star Trek stuff we're going to talk about today, because
he gave me some of his opinions.
Oh, okay, excellent. Joe is going to be the messenger there. So let's get into this Star Trek story here. So basically, this is via IndieWire. It was an interview with Simon Pegg, wherein he says that he thinks Paramount is partly to blame for the slightly underwhelming performance of Star Trek Beyond, which is the last Star Trek film we had, but that was all the way back in 2016. But he feels that Paramount didn't strongly market the film. It happened during Star Trek's 50th anniversary, but they weren't really selling that. Pegg says that the regiment at the time dropped the ball on the promo of the film, and we've lost momentum. I think losing Anton Yelchin, which was a horrible, tragic death, was a huge blow to our little family, and our enthusiasm to do another one might have been affected by that. So I don't know, meaning he doesn't know if there are going to be any more Star Trek films. Now, some of the conversation around that is the fact that Star Trek Beyond didn't quite cross, I believe it was the $400 million mark. So what they're looking at projection-wise is these films stand to make maybe $500 million at the most, and they cost at least $200 million to make. You're not looking at Marvel money with these Star Trek films. Mm-hmm. Now, it was recently reported in November of 2019 that Fargo showrunner and Lucy in the Sky director Noah Hawley was coming on board to helm the next Star Trek film at the beginning of this year, and Hawley teased that the Star Trek film would be a brand new story featuring a new cast, which he's set to start working on after concluding the upcoming season of Fargo. So the question is basically, are these Star Trek movies being scaled too big? Should Paramount make them at lower budgets and not try to compete with the other big blockbuster franchises out there?
Well, absolutely in my own words and not reading something that Dan texted me at all. For what it's worth, my name is Dan Murrell, and Simon Pegg's box office analysis is spot on. You do have to make about 3 times the budget on a big film like this to break even. Beyond's budget was $185, and I didn't realize this, but me as Joe Starr, not as Dan Murrell.
Sure.
No Trek film has ever cracked $500 million, which I didn't quite realize. So I think they have a challenging model where I agree. I think they are maybe scaled up a little too high, especially when historically, no Trek film has ever been like the box office juggernaut that they seem to really want it to be in an MCU world.
Yeah, I mean, this I think is an interesting part of the conversation, because if you look at Star Trek as a franchise, it started as a television series. Yes, we sometimes get original characters in the Star Trek films, but by and large, they are about the characters that we know from the TV show. And if you look at the older Star Trek films, they assume you already know these characters, and it's a continuation of the story we already know. Now, certainly with the Abrams Star Trek films, we were looking at effectively rebooting the universe, but does Star Trek work as a film franchise alone, Ed? What do you think?
You guys, it used to be, hey, let's get a bunch of old people on screen. Let's just get these old people and have them sit at their little desk and go, for like 2 hours. And maybe they'll see God or talk to whales. You know what I mean? Maybe Data
The
will
absolute highlights of the franchise.
Right, maybe Data will get some skin.
Or a cat.
Or a cat. You know, I just feel like once they got past that, once they got too big for their cardboard wall britches, that's where it all went wrong.
Yeah.
So that's my, too much flourish on it way of saying I totally agree with Pegg that this concept that Star Trek is a $200 million enterprise, see what I did there, is ridiculous. It's so stupid to think that you need to. It's people walking into rooms and making speeches. They drop a data pad. They say, look what's on the data pad. And then one of them goes, sir, we need to shoot the torpedoes. The other one goes, no, we don't. And 20 minutes later, they have a techno-babble plan to bounce a thing off the what-to-name-it array and do the tachyon blast and the da-da-da. What about that takes $200 million? I feel like I'm crazy.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because obviously, I do think that even looking at the more recent Star Trek series, things like Star Trek Beyond and of course Star Trek Picard, which are all on CBS All Access, there is a level of them leaning into that sort of Abramsy feel of the scaled up action Star Trek, if you will, which again, Star Trek was not like a high sci-fi action sort of show, which isn't to say that they didn't get down and dirty, but that's exactly what they did. Kirk got down and dirty and got by the skin of his teeth. It was not like flashy, skydiving through
but I think
nebulous.
But I think you guys are right. The focus is supposed to be like, yeah, maybe there's a flourish of that here and there, but the focus is everyone at some point is supposed to sit down and go, what's the philosophical nature of currency?
Totally.
Or, whatever.
Yeah.
I do think the smart move that they've made is to scale back and focus on TV. If the Picard series had been like just one new Next Generation movie, I don't think it would do well. I just don't think it would. So I think it's smart to take their wins on a smaller scale with Discovery and with Picard. And I think honestly, even more so than like screwing up the marketing for Star Trek Beyond, which I agree that they really screwed up the 50th anniversary thing. And then Paramount screwed up Trek in general. There was the whole thing where they were going after fans for making fan films and stuff like that, which was just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
When Disney's smart enough to leave your Baby Yoda sweaters on Etsy alone, you can let people pretend to be Kirk. Come on. But Into Darkness was a bad movie. And
it poisoned people against Beyond or whatever, because Beyond was pretty good.
I was going to say, I think that what we're looking at here a little bit is a sort of similar situation to what went on with Bumblebee, Travis Knight's Bumblebee, because the thing is Bumblebee is so good. It's such a cute movie. It's E.T. with Bumblebee and a teenage girl instead of a little boy. But because we'd gotten burned by so many Michael Bay Transformers movies, people didn't see it. So I think that's what happened with Beyond as well, as you're saying, is Into Darkness was a movie that was very divisive and certainly, lacking in certain areas, in my opinion. But if you love Star Trek Into Darkness, that's also great. However, even though Beyond was generally pretty well liked critically, and they're like, oh, Justin Lin did such a great job of bringing this back around after Into Darkness went wherever it was trying to go. But there was already, I think, the people being like, I don't know.
Yeah,
Star Trek movies, maybe they're not a thing for me.
Yeah.
Well, Star Trek Beyond messed up by going warp 9 to the memberberry sector of the universe, and I think people felt conned, if you will. And it's like, it's a bunch of crap in there to like appeal to these people who didn't even watch that movie. Anybody who remembers Khan a whole bunch probably didn't even go see that damn thing.
Sure. Yeah, I think the thing that works about Star Trek movies when they're really good is that they feel just like a long episode of the TV show.
I agree. I think, I think the movies supplement the show.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. And I think at a certain stage, you just have to go, okay, we need to earn a movie. Because with all of these franchises, you're going to hit a point where you've either done enough bad ones or you've rebooted it over and over again so much that, like, who cares? I can't really attach my, like, any weight to this, any emotional weight to this, because you're going to reboot it again, And so I think at some point you just have to hit pause and go, okay, no matter how we try to shake up this puzzle, Noah Hawley's going to direct it, or Quentin Tarantino's going to direct it, and it's going to have swears in it. It's going to be a musical now. Lin-Manuel Miranda's going to do Picard the musical.
When you're in space, you'll meet a new race. And
James Tiberius Kirk. And we're the crew from the Enterprise. It's just not going to work over and over again because you didn't have the momentum of good movies behind you. The first one was good, but then Into Darkness just really sucked, and people only have so much money.
And it was already in a place of, with the first Star Trek J.J. Abrams film, basically we were dealing with, here are a bunch of characters that we already know from the classic series of Star Trek. And so in there, we had a sort of nice moment of them being reestablished within this sort of new continuity, et cetera, et cetera. And I really did enjoy that first Star Trek film that J.J. Abrams did.
And I think it's easy to sell that one because that's kind of fascinating. Like the hook of like, oh, Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto, and okay, cool. Let me see what they do.
Yeah, I liked it a whole lot, but I think that Abrams immediately fell into the trap of, let's just recycle existing Star Trek characters instead of creating new ones. He doesn't like in any of his Star franchises doing anything interesting, does he?
I mean, we're going to look back on
the rise of Con Walker.
We're going to look back on this time and go, wait a minute. They just gave J.J. Abrams control of everything with Starr in it? Yeah. What were these
Star
people?
Search.
I'm surprised that J.J. Abrams didn't direct A Star Is Born.
The Last Starfighter.
Remember that part where he peed? We're going to do that again with a bigger budget. It's going to be a pee squib. But like, so
why did he pee? Are we going to find out? I don't know.
Dude, we got to do a prequel about that. So like, I just think it's one of these things where obviously back in the days it worked as, I know that I was maybe reductive to Star Trek fans earlier with my screed, but that's what it was. It was a bunch of old people talking to each other, and then you got in love with those old people, and then they got up on the screen. They got a chance to go back. I know, but now we don't have a new.
But like that's what's good about it,
right? But we don't have the new set of old people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like Discovery would have to run for 15 more years, get a bunch of aplomb, like a 7, whatever.
All of these Star Trek films happened after the conclusion of the series. It was another story with those characters that we knew. It was exciting because we were bringing these characters that we already liked back together and getting a little more story about them. As I said, these movies work, and as Joe sort of built off of what I was saying, they work when they are supplemental to the series. I have yet to really see, I mean, again, the 2014 or whatever year the original Star Trek J.J. Abrams directed was, it was earlier than that, 2009. Yep. Was very enjoyable. But I don't know that Star Trek works as a standalone film franchise.
Well, and this concept that like you're just gonna I'm just gonna make up some new characters and spend $150 million on it, and you're gonna care because I'm Noah Hawley. Man, Noah Hawley is dope. Noah Hawley hasn't made any missteps in TV to my mind at all.
I'm excited to hear that Noah Hawley was doing a Star Trek television series. Again, I think of Star Trek as a TV franchise, and when you get into the realm
with an occasional second scoop of raisins on the big screen.
Totally. And that's the thing is once you get into like, let's do big scale Star Trek for the big screen, does it cease to be Star Trek?
And those are, but again, what you just said, because it ceases to be Star Trek because again, obviously my dumb old man conception of it is not necessarily what it needs to be forever. But at the same time, when you stretch something too much, when Batman's in the spaceship and he's throwing, he's chucking batarangs into space and taking out armadas with them, you go at a certain point, this isn't Batman anymore. This is some weird dumb crap with a Batman mask on it.
Sure.
And these seem to be pretty low IQ sci-fi movies with Kirk's face slapped on it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It just doesn't. That doesn't do it for me, and I don't think it. But again, Beyond was good because it was like an original story of how Star Trek, there's some interesting stories in that it's like a naval outfit that thinks it's a science outfit, but is actually a universal imperial force almost, but they're killing you with kindness. Here's some replicators, they make beans. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a battle for hearts and minds across the universe, and there's a lot going on there that could be explored in a television show, get you up to a certain point. Like, I wish that Star Trek was healthy enough during the Deep Space Nine era, which I didn't like as much as some other things, okay? But they built up this whole thing of the Dominion War. Yeah. And if you were super into that, if they had to put the Dominion War on big, you spent 5 seasons building up the Dominion, then you get a movie where for the equivalent of $80 million of the day's money, you get a big, writ large version of that battle from the TV show. Cool. Yeah. But this making it out of whole cloth, I don't think it's possible anymore.
Yeah,
because even beyond Rift, with like you said, Rift was so many ideas from the show, but even that still ended with your third act. I mean, it wasn't straight up a skybeam, but there was still the XYZ. We got to do the video game shoot 'ems at the end, which was
yeah. I mean, it sounds like this is probably the end of stuff for the Abrams cast, the sort of reboot of the original 1960s Star Trek
Kelvin,
cast.
they call it.
Yes, the Kelvin era folk. I guess then the only question is, are you sorry that they didn't get to do more movies as those characters?
Yeah, I think the chemistry with this group was awesome.
Yeah, I really liked the cast.
Yeah, again, Chris Pine, best Hollywood Chris, was a great Kirk, and I thought Quinto was super fun. Obviously, when you do something so tight knit like this and you lose a major family member, that sucks. That was the deepest thing I've ever said. That really sucks. I don't know how you move forward on it and still have like the same spark and the same excitement to get back together with everybody, because that hole is definitely still there. And then aside from Anton, just how the studio has treated what they were trying to do, like that's got to feel crappy too. Like they spent all this time setting up the slip and slide, and then Paramount keeps turning off the hose. Like
get that burn down your body.
That burn down your body. Like that's no fun.
Yep.
Well, that thing about them not really trumpeting, you were talking about from them not trumpeting that it was Star Trek's 50th anniversary. Right. I think if I had known that, my girlfriend could have got me to go see Beyond in the movie theater rather than like this big on a plane and then this big on an iPad and then finally that big on my TV. Yeah. For the third act. I'm like, oh yeah, Idris Elba. I was watching it too small. I didn't even know that was Idris Elba. Had to see him on a big screen. Yeah. It's just like that wouldn't have happened if I knew that it was the 50th anniversary of Trek. If they had worked in some sort of cameo for one of the people, they talked to Kirk Holocron that looks like James T. Kirk. Like,
from Star Wars.
You know what I mean?
They're all Abrams.
It's all mixed up now.
It's just all Abrams.
It's like
it does. It just feels like Paramount didn't get how into Star Trek people are.
Right?
You know what I mean? Like,
here's $200 million to make your little thing. I don't really believe in it. Peace.
the fact that,
What?
I mean, as Simon Pegg pointed out, that there wasn't this big push for, oh, it's the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, and there's all these like themed screenings of Star Trek Beyond, and you get X, Y, and Z swag if you go. Like,
well, and then also just the weird idea from the start, even with the 2000, because the 2009 movie is good, but it's the exception, not the rule. Even just the fact that they were like, what if Star Trek was the next like Transformers level earner? Even though Star Trek has never been that.
No.
Once in its career. It's been, this massive cultural force on TV, obviously, but just, that's such a weird idea to just make in a vacuum.
Yeah.
But what about this? What about this, though? You keep talking about freaking Transformers, and I'm wondering what the connection is besides Joe and the fact that they're in his bloodstream as nanobots that help his cells work. But here's the thing.
They're called Micromasters, and
both of these things have one problem, Ryan. Both of these things have one singular problem, and it's that they didn't start out with the Travis Knight of it all. They didn't start out with a boy and his dog movie. If you start out a Star Trek movie where it's a bunch of talking, and then that third act, we spend that $70 million we had in our sock, and we start blowing it up good, and you go, whoa, that was a lot of talking, but then they blew it up good. Yeah. Wow, that's a different movie experience. Then I watched something that obviously cost $300 million to make, and I am somewhat whelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm whelmed after watching. I'd rather be blown away by something that costs $100 million than whelmed by something that costs $300. And both those franchises, dude, a little kid's trying to hitchhike, and the only thing that stops for him is a truck with a bunch of flames on it. It goes, "Oh, kid, I'm on a mission." And then that's the very first Transformers movie. It's one kid and his dad and a truck he brought home that has a secret mission, and it's by itself against like maybe two other Decepticons. Boom! And then at the end of that, his buddies fall out of the sky, and then the other buddies fall out of the sky, and then by now, it's an insufferable mess full of Christmas tinsel thrown down the stairs. That's what they look like when they fight. Just a bunch of Christmas tinsel that you just threw. That's what it looks like now with all the different characters. It should look like that now. But it shouldn't have started out as that.
They shouldn't have just dumped the Christmas decorations down the stairs out the jump.
No. Just start out with that one ball, the red ball, then get the white one, then get and then they get the star on the top. And then now, at this point in 2020, we should see stupid ass Transformer movies with 57 billion characters you don't care about fighting each other. Well, but it should have started out small.
Can we talk about real quick before we move on to our next segment, a film franchise that I think did that extremely well, which is Fast and the Furious.
I think you are absolutely right.
Fast and the Furious built to the level of ridiculous it is now.
Yep.
But it started off as just like some street racers with cars.
Right. They proved themselves several times by doubling and redoubling and super doubling and quadrupling, all these little budgets. And now they can get $200 million and do some stupid stuff.
And they built a whole family around the Fast and the Furious franchise. And we want to thank all of you out there for being part of the SJU family. Thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, sharing this video with everyone you know, turning on notifications, leaving comments, and smashing that bell. Hey, that was great, Ryan. That was much better than the last time I hosted, where I think we rated you like a B+. That was like a solid A-, bordering on a straight up A.
Yeah, I'm with the Russian judge.
Be sure to check out Fandom IRL. Joe, what's going on in that sphere right now?
Yeah, so this weekend wrapped up our series on Joker and Harley Quinn. With my favorite lawyer defends the Joker episode. We talked to a real lawyer about that episode of Batman the Animated Series where Joker genetically alters the fish to look like him so that he can make money, copyright them and make money off of them. And
so good.
It's really good. It's really funny. Just watching our attorney do his best to straight face the conversation. It's super fun. And then just a great light fluffy Harley Quinn piece about toxic relationships, which just real light.
Yeah, that's not heavy subject matter.
No. So yeah, so those wrap up our Fandom IRL series on Joker and Harley. We're going to be doing lots more stuff with different characters and stuff like that. But a little inside baseball. Originally, I think these were supposed to be like one video each, and then we just felt like after those interviews, we just had a ton of really good stuff, and we wanted to split it up so that it wasn't just like condensed, here's a sentence about each topic, and then we're cranking through and moving on. So thank you guys for liking those, sharing them, and all that good stuff. And yeah, let us know in the comments of them what characters you want us to see tackled next.
And Ed, what do you have going on in the internet spheres outside of the SJU studio?
Oh, well, you know, if people want to see more of these wild rantings and with people to tamp me down as well, it's not just me going nuts. Reboot It, where we take film franchises and we try to do them over again in about an hour. Sometimes we win, sometimes we fail, but it's always a great experiment. And Nerd Goat Podcast, where we talk to interesting people about their favorite fictional character. We talked to Joe Starr about Rodimus Prime, and it's a testament to his abject popularity that episode's blowing up because nobody cares about Rodimus Prime.
No, actually, I would strike that, reverse it. No one cares about me.
It's all Joe, baby.
Everyone
That
loves
is all Rodimus Prime, baby.
No, Joe doesn't have any annoying spoilers.
He's got the touch.
Yeah.
And my understanding is on Reboot It, you did an episode where you cast a director who we're going to be talking about later in the episode as the director of a franchise.
Yeah, we tapped Leigh Whannell.
Leigh Whannell.
Leigh Whannell. Son of a bitch, I thought you drowned.
Leigh Whannell almost killed him.
Bartell, and Leigh Whannell went and held all them hostages at the Cracker Barrel. Held out for 20 minutes before the state troopers got through.
There's cornbread everywhere. The aftermath. Yes, we picked Leigh Whannell as the director for our Wolverine franchise, which we kind of did as more of a mystery, a mystery about a cryptid, almost like a Bigfoot figure. Bigfoot meets John Wick.
I like
That's
that.
kind of our Wolverine pitch. So we got Leigh Whannell.
Leigh Whannell. Before we dive into the mystery of what Leigh Whannell's contract with Blumhouse and Universal looks like coming up, we are going to take a moment to remember the late and great James Lipton of Inside the Actors Studio. The information from this comes from an article from the New York Times. James Lipton, the famed Inside the Actors Studio host, died on Monday morning at his home after a battle with bladder cancer. He was 93 years old. So you know what? It's very sad, but dang, 93.
Lipton went out, man.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
That was such a great show. Inside the Actors Studio was such a cool show. And I think most people know it because of the Will Ferrell parody.
Yes.
Which Lipton was a really good sport about. He was just like, oh, he nails it. But I think you should watch that. You should take a minute to look up episodes of that for a couple of reasons. One, I think you'll get a lot of really cool insights on performing and filmmaking. And then also, we had a fan question that keeps popping up that I think we keep not doing because it requires too much thought. And last week was just not a week where we had brain cells. But it was like, what's your most surprising? Like, oh my God, that person's in this. Like when they're really young, and the students on Inside the Actors Studio. Like, do you want to see like a 17-year-old like Bradley Cooper who's like stroking his little wannabe college kid like goatee and is just like, yes, my question's more about sort of like predicting the choices you make ahead of time and whether or not like it's so cool to watch and see Lipton shape all of these students, because it was like a live stream of his class, basically his lecture class or his interview class and it's just so cool watching him shape all these people who are going to just like end up being like major power players in Hollywood.
Yeah, it is. I think one of the other things too about James Lipton that was so special and something that I really am trying to emulate as a host and an interviewer is being a good listener. Like he's so good at like really listening to what people are saying. I mean, certainly he has a bunch of prepared questions, and to celebrate his legacy, we'll be asking each other some of his favorite questions from Inside the Actors Studio today. But ultimately, I don't feel like he allowed his interviews to be dictated by the questions he asked. He asked really good questions that then led to really interesting discussions that came out of him just listening to what his subjects had to say to him.
Yeah. Yeah, he really seemed to. I liked his interviews because there's kind of the Charlie Rose style of interview where you talk as much as the subject.
Yeah, it's a conversation.
Right. And he teeters on that, but always in a good way. He knows a lot. I've been to panels with people who don't know anything who talk as much as the subject of the interview.
He was a very good researcher.
Sucks. But yeah, he did good research. That was one of my favorite parts of that show was when people would go, "Who told you that?" Like, he'd be talking to Robert De Niro and he'd be like, "Well, when you were on your pappy's knee, you used to play with a corn cob." And like, what? I'm from Brooklyn. Like, how did you know that? How did you get that? And someone will have told him, or he had done some, film comment sort of microfiche research and knew something. It was always the case. So I really like that about him.
Yeah, definitely. A quote from his widow, Kedekai Turner. There are so many James Lipton stories, but I'm sure he would like to be remembered as someone who loved what he did and had tremendous respect for all the people he worked with. And I think that was certainly evident in his work. So in celebration of his tremendous life and career achievements, we are going to each ask one of his favorite questions of his guests to one another. So Ed, do you want to kick things off? You want to pick one of these questions?
I'll ask. I'll ask the panel. What is your favorite word?
Favorite word.
Ooh, shoot.
See, it should come instantly. Mine are feral or jazz.
Jazz?
Yeah,
Jazz is good. That's a really good answer.
Jazz is a very good word for me, but like
jazz.
Yeah.
I know what mine is.
What?
It's eponymous.
Ooh.
Which is just a fancy way of saying like shares a name with the title. It's a synonym for titular.
Yeah.
But I like eponymous better.
See? Do like Emma, Joe.
Mine's horrible. It's probably at least in terms of most repeated, it's probably no, it's probably
You just gotta work on the Shatner pause instead of saying That's what I try to do. When I try to think of something to say, I just don't say anything.
I've always said Emma Fyffe has a certain Shatner quality. Yeah. Now I understand why.
Your favorite word, though?
It's probably just It's such a flexible word. Like, it can be a positive and reaffirming thing. It can be real passive aggressive. Ed, tell me an opinion about Star Wars.
Okay, I think the special effects are really good. Yeah, wow, I felt it. That was icy. Victor Freeze over here. Jesus. All right. So yeah, that's another question.
All right, moving on to another question. Joe, what would you like to ask the panel?
What profession, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
I know my answer.
What is it?
I would like to attempt to be a fantasy and or science fiction novelist. Because I like telling stories. When I was a teenager, I had it was actually a sketch pad. So you know how sketch pads come in different sizes. So this one was a little spiral ring sketch pad that was kind of the size of like a Kindle. So I give you a reference for, I don't know, items that exist today. These still exist today, but everybody does so much digitally. And I had written this entire fictional outline of the history of this world that did not exist in preparation for like writing a book about it.
I have never wanted to see something like that.
Oh, yeah.
See this.
We're going to have to dig that up.
It, but yeah.
You got to find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a pre-writer too back in the day.
I was a big pre-writer.
Yeah,
I would plan.
Yep.
I'd plan the heck out of stuff.
Not actually do the thing, but ooh, yeah.
I did attempt to start writing a chapter one time. I still remember like all the main characters, and as an adult, it's so funny because I've been so obsessed with the Witcher TV series on Netflix. And so before they released the album of music for the Netflix show, I was listening to the music from the video games. And like, I was really like tapping back into these characters and things I made up when I was like 16. So who knows? Maybe it'll happen one day.
I was tempted to say internet commentator because I feel as though like there are people in this game who know how to come on and get in front of the mic and be humans, and I don't. I feel like I'm just a wild feral monster in here going nuts. So I really wish I could like, yes, well, very smart. I really wish I could do that.
Ed would like to grow up and be a compliment fisher.
Yes.
Right? No. But I do understand that there's a certain quality to what I do, so I'll take it. But I think I would really much, if you told 14-year-old me that I commented on comics rather than drawing them, he'd be so sad. He'd get that tear that refuses to fall. You know what I mean? He'd get that. And I just feel like so I've been training my skills up, and getting better and better over the years and stuff at my own pace. And I think I'm pretty good, but to do panel-to-panel comics, I think the ability to not necessarily turn your brain off, but to interpret other people's stories via drawings and via illustrations, I think that would settle my mind down, because now I have like an auteur theory about comics where I got to write a man drum, which is going to take twice as long to procrastinate to not do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's twice as daunting. It fuels the procrastination engine just with coal and ethylene and stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's a lot. So yeah, I really wish I could do panel-to-panel comics.
Nice.
There is something cool about that, being on one end of that conversation of interpreting somebody's story. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'd be a teacher. I like
Do you want to be a teacher? Because the way the way you said that doesn't really convince me that that's something you want to do.
No, I'd be a teacher. I really like working with kids. It's something that I don't do anymore and haven't done in a really long time. But I really like working with especially little kids, whether it's writing or drama or theater or whatever. One of my absolute favorite things was doing improv with kids, and the younger the more fun it is, because you don't have to get into UCB level 2 level rules and stuff like that. With like little kids, it's literally just like, what kind of superhero are you? Okay, just be them for the next 10 minutes until I blow this whistle. You guys are just going to act like those superheroes. Go! And just like, watching them, come up with just craziness and make little discoveries and stuff like that. The
first child play production of Transformers the movie. The old one from 1986. Like some little kid, you got that touch, and he turns into a truck and he runs up and he gets shot up and he's like, the inner child is leaking from my body. Oh my God, I want to see that.
It's going to be so wildly inappropriate because it's going to be just as dark as the movie, and like all the parents are going to be like, oh, my son's going to pretend to be like a robot today, and then like that kid's just going to be staggering forward with like smoke pouring out.
Yeah.
But yeah, teacher.
That's your answer.
I'd work with the kids. I'd work with the children.
I like that. All right.
A better world.
I guess it's my turn to ask a question. I really want to ask favorite curse word, but I feel like we shouldn't curse on the show.
Yeah.
So instead,
mine is F a dong.
Okay.
Say that a lot. I don't know why. I don't know where it came from. Say it a lot.
My favorite curse word, Jeez Louise.
Jeez Louise.
And I think it might actually be.
Yeah.
Like I've said that under actual distress. I've said that under like, why you attack Jeez Louise? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I can't say mine on air. I can't say mine on air in the UK. It's the only one you have to get permission to say.
Weirdly, it doubles as the title of her story.
So instead, I'm going to ask the question of what turns you off, Ed?
I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. What turns me off is actually trying to find time to sit down and be creative. By the time I do it, I'm turned off.
Okay.
It's like a creative act to find the time to sit down.
And you've used up all of your creative energy getting there.
It does turn me off. And I have to turn myself back on by sitting there until till it comes back on. Till the muse comes back. I have to keep sitting there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, but when I sit down, I'm like, yeah, boy, we about to tackle this bar. Yeah, boy. Sometimes the bear eats you. Sometimes you eat the bear. The bear gonna get ate today, boy. Here we go. Blank page. Go take it down. woo! And it's like an hour later, nothing has happened because I've wasted all this energy getting ready. So I think my creativity turns off when I sit down to do it.
Interesting. Joe, what about you?
Pickles.
Pickles?
Just in general.
Just in general, I don't like those things, man.
Oh, dang!
They smell bad. They taste bad. I don't like being near them.
Okay, if it's something simple like that, I was trying to be accidental. If it's something simple like that,
your answer.
Ginger. When they bring me a big plate of sushi,
both pickles and ginger. So.
Dude, when they bring me a big plate of sushi, I
thought you were gonna say a big plate of ginger, and I was like, "Where are you going?"
No, for real. Like ginger,
sushi ginger.
Yeah, I don't get it. Like double wasabi, no ginger. Every time you bring me sushi,
But you have to cleanse your palate in between the different types of sushi you eat. So
says
you. Taste them.
you.
Okay, well, I happen to like both pickles and ginger, but I hate bad listening. I hate it when you're having a conversation with somebody and it's so evident that they're just waiting for their turn to speak. That makes me so mad. And also just being too precious with your opinions. Like if you're somebody that gets really, really upset that someone has a different opinion than you on a piece of fiction, nope, can't do it. Can't do it. I hate it.
Today on Movie Fights.
Yeah,
no, I hear you though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just,
Well, I was watching this video, and it was talking about tribalism. I think when somebody doesn't like your opinion, it makes you double down on it even more to try to fight against that. And I don't get that.
I don't get that
but
either.
But I think a lot of people do. They assign their reality, their something about themselves.
their identity.
Yeah, their identity. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't personally experience that at all myself. So it's a total disconnect for me. And anybody, if I encounter someone in real life that just like cannot handle the fact that I have a different opinion than they do, particularly again on a piece of fiction where it truly doesn't matter if you have a different opinion than somebody.
Well, I think women run into it a lot more than a lot of people too. You know what I mean?
Sure.
In regards to like, your reasons for not liking that are probably not correct. So let me just go ahead and lay it on down.
Yeah,
It's like,
because it's
Well, they are real
invalidating.
fans, Ed.
yeah.
Emma, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess I'll just leave then, and because we already know that I'm sitting right next to the expert authority on our upcoming topic, which is Leigh Whannell.
Go, Leigh Whannell.
Good old Leigh Whannell and his partnership with Blumhouse. This is via the Hollywood Reporter, also known as To Her. Whannell,
Them Whannell boys.
known for the Saw and Insidious franchises, has inked a 2-year overall deal with Blumhouse for film and television. The first look pact will include projects he writes, directs, or produces. The filmmaker and Blumhouse have collaborated on 7 projects to date. With The Invisible Man off to a strong start that could see it earn $26 million.
Outperform that. That was projection.
Oh,
Sorry.
that was a projection. Ryan giving me false information or previously correct information. So it was projected.
That's what turns me off. Ryan doing a bad job.
It was projected to make $26 million opening weekend. It outperformed that, as a matter of fact. So Blumhouse and Leigh Whannell just making them deals.
I mean, this is a great fit for both of them. Obviously there's a huge history there, but he's a true triple threat. I mean, this deal's perfect for him. Just, he created Saw. He's clearly a good director. He's a great producer. And I think, the Blumhouse is the perfect home.
Totally.
For someone like him.
Yeah. And by his own sort of admission in some interviews and stuff, he's talked about the fact that, we're looking at a 10-year relationship at this point between Leigh Whannell and Jason Blum, that they're clearly people who work extremely well together. And especially given the success of The Invisible Man, which I have not seen, because I spent like 5 hours at Alamo Drafthouse yesterday watching Emma and then having an immersive Regency tea experience instead of
just like a fake fan of Emma Wood.
Just like a fake fan, like the fake fan I am. But I'm very much looking forward to seeing Invisible Man this week. It's getting incredible reviews. And so, yeah, I'm excited by this prospect because, you know, Blumhouse seems to be the place that is willing to take risks on people. And I also really enjoy that Blumhouse's budgets are small.
Yeah, I think they've really sort of drawn a line in the sand in terms of what their studio is and what it's not. Because I think otherwise, I think at this point, you know, just with the track record, a lot of other studios and a lot of other different leadership would have gone, okay, what's the biggest IP now we can snag or you know, something like that. You know, how can we slap the Blumhouse name on Star Trek or, you know, something like that. And I think Blumhouse and then also Leigh are both sort of filmmaking entities that have such a clear identity. When you tell me it's going to be a Blumhouse movie, I know exactly what you mean. And then when you tell me it's going to be a Leigh Whannell film, I know what I can expect from that too. So I think the partnership is cool. And I think companies like Blumhouse, who have this clear sort of mission statement and are going to stick to it, are how we survive the coming monopolies and apocalypses.
That's true.
Apocalypse.
The pop culture lie.
The pop culture lie. I think it's interesting, too, if you look at Whannell's track record in terms of films, I think he tends to do such a good job with the first thing of whatever he does. You know what I mean? Because it's like, as we get deeper into some of these things that he's been behind, like Saw or Insidious, they start to get a little silly, or with Saw,
the rest of the Christmas decorations.
Right, exactly. The rest of the Christmas decorations come off. The Saw movies get into just full on torture porn at times, but his track record of kind of launching things is so good. So I'm excited to see him potentially be in the place to just tackle and launch new stuff. And then sort of see where it goes. Well,
I'm excited to see him in a similar, not the same, but a similar position as someone like J.J. Abrams. Not as far as budgets, obviously, because it's Blumhouse Productions. You know, Blumhouse.
Is that really how it's pronounced?
No, I don't know. It's Blum. It's
I feel like I got a lot of back and forth with people. I'm like, I swear it's Jason Blum. Blumhouse.
Blumhouse is like is a European DJ, I think.
Blumhouse.
Blumhouse. Yeah.
Do you like EDM?
And I think you're right about him being able to, like, what you're talking about is the ability to launch franchises. That's what you're talking about. Like, lay down the tracks, and then whoever puts trains on them, there's different types of trains, you know, but the track is laid, and that's the hard part. And I think, you know, but you know what's great about Blumhouse, though? Honestly, they know they make a bunch of crap. But just like every studio, they make a bunch of crap. But they look at it and they test it and they show it around and they go, all right, this is crap that we're just going to dump somewhere, like Fantasy Island, right? They know the difference between crap and crappity crap, like Ma. Ma gets dropped a certain way. Fantasy Island gets dropped like, no. And then Invisible Man gets a, like, Knives Out type of marketing array. You know what I mean? They're smart. They know what they had. For some reason, they're dumb enough, quote unquote, to just make a bunch of crap, throw it up against the wall, see if it. Because that's smart. That's actually smart in films. Set yourself up to get a bunch of bites at the apple. But when they know that's a big good bite, that got almost down to the core, they circle it and give it the support Get Out got versus the support that Fantasy Island got. They know what they make, and they know how to market it.
And that's what I think is cool. Is like you say throw the crap at the wall, but I don't think it's to see what sticks. I think they know exactly where to throw the crap at the wall to get maximum. I don't know what's the point of throwing it at the wall. Maximum drippage. I don't know. But like they know what part of the wall they need to throw Fantasy Island at, like well before the marketing for it even begins. Like they know exactly what they've got. They know exactly who wants to see it. And I agree with you. I think it's really smart.
Yeah, I mean it'll be cool too. I think with this new deal, because as you say, Blumhouse allows for there to be some crap productions, and they know how to sort of just leverage that. And
Can we give them Star Trek? Okay, let's get nuts. The $30 million Star Trek takes place in a warehouse.
No, Fantasy Island 2.
and just keep making stuff. Like that I think is the biggest thing that I really enjoy about Blumhouse is the fact that they just keep making stuff.
Mm-hmm. And giving a lot of people opportunities where, because they have a price point where you're not going to give Nia DaCosta, let's say, the director of Candyman.
Sure.
You're not going to give her $80 million. Right. Not because of anything other than she's a young filmmaker. You're not going to give her that. But you can certainly give her like 50 to do Candyman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful way for new voices to be heard. It's what we always dreamed about Netflix and Amazon being, but for the theatrical experience.
Yep.
You know, we have the budget and the largesse to take a chance on X, Y, and Z. But in the theatrical space, it's a totally different gamble than streaming. So I love that Blumhouse is like a streaming house for the box office almost. Like they give people a chance that would have probably given chances on streamers, but for the box office experience. So next thing you know, Nia DaCosta could be a bankable director rather than a streamer director.
Exactly. And then they have those movies, as you say, releasing in theaters.
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of the conversation we had about distribution with Neon, with Parasite and Portrait of a Lady on Fire, that like Blumhouse is a studio that believes in what it's doing. Mm-hmm. And they give people opportunities. It's very much like the student theater at James Madison University, where I went to school, where we as students could basically pitch a production and we'd be given a budget for it. You had to propose a budget for it about how much money you needed to do the show that you wanted to do. And we did shows with very little faculty supervision because their feeling was, hey, you're creative. The way for you to learn is to just create. Mm-hmm. And if you fail miserably, and there were some real bad shows in the student theater, not the one I directed, it was amazing.
It was an adaptation of...
That's
that little journal.
It was my little journal. My little journal. No, but if you fail, you're gonna learn something. Mm-hmm. You know, and sometimes it's things will fail at the box office, but they actually do well with critics. But again, as you say, it's giving people the opportunity to get into a space where they can be seen and they can create. So. Hats off to Blumhouse, and they're closer to $29 million opening weekend on Leigh Whannell's The Invisible Man. We are going to say farewell to you from right here, but don't go anywhere because Eric Goldman actually just sat down at this very desk with Leigh Whannell to talk about Invisible Man and how well received it's been, plus what it's like seeing the life the Saw series has taken on. So goodbye to you all. Stick around and check out Eric Goldman's interview with Leigh Whannell.
Let's turn into them now.
Leigh Whannell.
Where are you? Show yourself. Come on. Do it. There you are.
Hey guys, Eric here, and I'm here with writer, director, sometimes actor, Leigh Whannell, and he's sporting a really nice glove.
I know. Sorry, you've got a lot of cool toys here, and I had to get involved with this one. Yes. In terms of horror iconography, this is it.
It's pretty great. But you, sir, are very familiar with horror and horror icons. Clearly, you know, you come to us from Saw and from Insidious, and from your new film, Invisible Man. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I saw this movie a few weeks ago. I remember talking to you at Alamo Draft House.
Very carefully.
And we were talking about how you had just sort of locked the movie, and now it was going to go out in the world.
Yes.
And now you've seen this reaction, you've seen these reviews, and, you know, horror movies, as a fan, I say this, sometimes critics are way too tough on them.
Right, yeah.
So what's it like seeing the reaction this movie's gotten?
You know, I am someone who really utilizes critics to make decisions on what to watch.
Right.
You know, as a film fan, I read a lot of film criticism, and so it stings when you get a bad review, and when it's good, it's very gratifying.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, Invisible Man, when we go into anything that's considered a reboot, a reimagining, whatever you want to call it, it seems like the tendency these days is to go bigger and do like the bigger version and blow it out. And with this movie, you're telling a smaller sort of intimate story. Did that always sort of seem like the right way in to Invisible Man for you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty instantly, as soon as the idea of The Invisible Man was suggested to me, the title, in fact, was suggested to me, I pretty instantly saw a way to do it that was pretty intimate, to keep it small, make it a chamber piece with a few actors, a kind of an emotional story following one character, and make the Invisible Man the villain, the antagonist, and see the film through the eyes of his victim, as opposed to the original story, which is focused more on the Invisible Man and his descent into madness, which is a great story. There's a reason why it's lasted all these years, but I felt that to make it scary, it couldn't be that. At least not for me. Maybe someone else could have made a great version of that.
Well, it's interesting with Invisible Man because this is a Universal movie, and he is one of the classic Universal monsters. And the original is a great movie, but as a character, it's not like he's Dracula or Frankenstein's monster where people have a pretty distinct idea about, well, this is what he needs to do or this is how he should act. Was that very freeing for you? Yeah, it was freeing. That's exactly the way I would put it. Everybody knows the rules of Dracula, the garlic, the holy water, the sunlight. And it's what makes the vampire genre fun, is sort of finding new ways to work within those rules. But as you say, with the Invisible Man, he's not a monster. He doesn't have supernatural powers. It's just a guy. He has this invisibility, but he's human. Even the original film and novel is very much about the frailties and failings of the common man and how this man is driven insane by this power. So it's unique in that respect compared to those other iconic monsters. And that does give you a little more freedom, I think.
Adrian's true genius was how he got in people's heads.
Don't come any closer. Hey!
I'm not crazy. Please listen to me.
Something getting a lot of positive attention about this film is that it's incorporating these sort of very relevant issues for women, whether it be abuse, gaslighting. Was that something you were sort of conscious of as you began the script, or did it just kind of naturally evolve as the story you're telling?
I think it naturally evolved. Like, I didn't start out with that. I started out with the character. That's the main thing, this iconic character, and trying to figure out what was the sort of bone marrow of this character in terms of making him scary. And for me, the answer to the question was, what makes him scary is that you can't see him. He could be standing next to you. And so suddenly, with that, it became obvious that this should be a story about somebody stalking an ex-partner of theirs.
Adrian was brilliant, but it wasn't because of anything he invented. It was how he got in people's heads. You think about it. He came up with the perfect way to torture you, even in death. Only thing more brilliant than inventing something that makes you invisible is not inventing it, but making you think he did.
This movie, is very much doing its own thing. It's a standalone film that's not conceived as part of a shared universe. And it's interesting because Universal's doing other movies that are based around their classic horror characters. And there's an Invisible Woman movie Elizabeth Banks is doing. Is that kind of exciting to you to get to, you've done your movie and now you're going to kind of get to see what these other films are?
Yeah, I mean, I made it as a standalone film. Yeah. And I never thought about any of the other movies that were associated with it. I never thought about any sequels or interconnected stories. I at no stage did I think, well, I should have a cameo from Dr. Jekyll here.
Sure.
And no one from Universal asked me to do that.
Because it's interesting, when you do look back on the original Universal horror movies, they were not conceived to connect. They were all doing their own thing. And then one day someone said, hey, what if this?
Yeah, what if suddenly Frankenstein wandered over?
Hollywood being Hollywood, do you think? Who knows?
It was the first universe,
right? It was. It really was. Right? But it wasn't planned that way,
right?
So do you wonder, 5 years from now, who knows if someone will say?
Maybe. I mean, look. Culture has accelerated so quickly today. Like now, we're remaking movies from 5 years ago now.
True.
You used to have to wait like a good 30, even 40 years to remake something, So yeah, I would not be surprised if suddenly somebody decided that this was going to be part of something else. But for now, I'm very much thinking of it as one movie.
Before I let you go, I will ask you a couple questions about other franchises you begat. Is it just a trip for you 16 years after Saw yourself to see a trailer for the 9th movie and it stars Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson?
Yeah, it is. James Wan and I, we never intended that movie to connect with people the way it did. Our goal was to make a straight-to-video film. This was 2003. Video stores were still a thing.
Sure.
And James and I were big fans of some of those straight-to-video horror movies that used to thrive. There was a whole market of these things. And our big goal was, wouldn't it be cool if we could land in Blockbuster? I think that's the Australian in us, just modest goals.
I have to ask, because you wrote the first 3 Saw movies. Has it been funny for you? Because I know as a fan of the series, it's amazing to me to see the continuity and the building upon everything you guys did with the original movies.
The last Saw movie that I wrote was the 3rd one.
Right. And
I killed the villain.
Right.
You know, I was like, well, doesn't get more definitive than that.
Sure.
He's dead. It's like... and I thought, well, that's it. And then there was a moment where it felt like that was it. And then suddenly, okay, part 4. And they kept going. And I have a lot of affection towards it. I mean, James and I inadvertently created the millennial Freddy Krueger.
This is true. Very true.
And, you know, in the same way that I used to go to sleepovers in my teens and watch Freddy movies, millennial kids were doing that with Saw movies. You know, I still have people come up to me and say, oh, when I was a kid, you know, I grew up on Saw movies. So that's kind of cool. I have a lot of affection for the Saw movies, and I also want to continue to make other movies, you know.
And then I have to ask lastly, second to last, Insidious, might there be more?
Well, it's Jason Blum. Like, if you've ever interviewed Jason or you know Jason at all, you know that he's always thinking more. He's like, can we do this? He wants to work with people he likes, and once he locks into a story he likes, he's like, let's keep doing it. So I think once this Invisible Man stuff calms down, he'll probably elbow me in the ribs and be like, come on, let's talk.
One thing I really like about your career, as a big fan of horror and genre, is that you haven't been sticking to sort of one tone. You know, with the movies you're doing, whether it be the Saw films, Insidious, now Invisible Man, they don't feel like, that's you know, your specific tone. Is that something that you always like to kind of change up? Okay, well, this movie's going to be moodier. This one might be a little lighter and a little more fun.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, each film tells you what it wants to be. You know, you have to sort of go with the tone of the movie. The story wants to be something, and you've got to lock into that. So yeah, I mean, I do think as a director, I'm trying to develop a style, something, you know, because the directors I admire the most, they have a recognizable style. And, you know, making a good movie is hard enough, let alone creating your own language that's recognizably yours. So if I could do that, I would be really happy. And I've had a couple of people say to me, like, I can see a style, you know, between Upgrade and Invisible Man, something you're doing, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah, I think what I like is it's a cinematic style, but then tonally you're going in different directions.
Films I've written have been all over the place, but as a director, I think I'm trying to lean more in that sort of, you know, David Fincher direction of, to use but one example of locking in on something.
Congratulations again. Invisible Man, now playing in theaters.
Thank you.
Check it out. Thanks a lot for coming.
I'm always confused about which camera to look at. There's so many.
Yeah, you know. It's all fine. Thanks a lot.
It's all fine. Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, man.